All right, we are live. This is another Cafe Crash. I'm your host, Daniel Crosier, with the amazing Courtney Ozaki. How are you, Courtney?
I am doing very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Good. It's wonderful to see you. Yeah, it's been too long, actually.
Yeah, it really has.
Yeah, yeah. Just a few years ago, right? Not to age. Well, especially me. I was already an old man when you met me. But we worked on OFM together, Odom Vemood. This ridiculous, stage performance. It was kind of like a B movie Circus Olay.
Mm-hmm.
And for everybody, listening in or watching, we're, get dressed up in big latex monster outfits and hooked up to Bloodworks, and we'd have this amazing band, that was, pretty metal influenced at the time, but you and your cousins would bring the amazing, taiko drums. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. It's to this date one of my favorite collaborations, favorite experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely near and dear to my heart, and I thank you for participating in that and making it that much more magical and gruesome, I suppose.
Yeah. we should do an anniversary one someday. Like, bring it back.
Oh, that would be cool. I think I definitely not me performing. I just be like, yep, you guys do what you want. I'll be over here. Grandpa's got to take a nap.
You're ridiculous.
I tend to be, but Courtney, for everybody watching out there, who are you? Where do you come from, and how did you get into music?
Well, I am born and raised in Colorado. So, and my family's been here since after World War II. So my grandparents came here after they were incarcerated in Poston, Arizona, and Crystal City, Texas. And it was a big resettlement site for Japanese and Japanese Americans to come to Denver because of the governor. So my family's been here in Denverites for quite a long time. And then how did I get started in music? Mm-hmm. So I started taiko, which is what I played with Odom Vemood, the Japanese drumming, when I was 8, because my aunt and uncle were professional taiko musicians, and my cousins and I showed interest in learning, and so they started teaching us. We started performing more professionally with them, like I guess in like middle school, because they used to perform in Disney World. And so, yeah, we get to go play on the Pagoda and Epcot Center with them during the summertime. I was thinking about that because you were talking about gators earlier when we were having. I was always scared to go in the swimming pool, even though like you can tell if there's a gator in the swimming pool, obviously. But
if they clean the pool,
if it's not too hard to see them. So taiko, that's always been part of my life ever since my cousins and I started our own professional group in 2002. That was not to age me, but that was my first year of college. And then it's just been a part of my life ever since. And then otherwise music has just always been like pretty integral to my life, like piano and singing for fun and stuff. And then I studied music in undergrad, music industry studies, so recording arts, music management, and then moved on to like performing arts and the sort of broader producing spectrum of the arts when I went to New York for my master's. So it's just always been, it's been a big musical trajectory, basically.
Yeah, nice. And during this pandemic and everything too, you're working with a number of different groups. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? We were talking about it quite a bit prior to broadcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So Since pandemic started, I joined the staff, like a first ever staff for a national nonprofit for taiko. So it's called Taiko Community Alliance. It's been around for about 7 years. This is a young organization still, but up until this year, it's been entirely run by a working board. So all volunteers.
Okay.
Which is like pretty incredible. But they felt like they were at a point where they were able to bring on staff this past year. So
nice.
They made that decision pre-pandemic. And so 3 of us were brought on. I was brought on as a business manager, and then pandemic hit. So yeah, it's been really interesting to, try to help navigate pandemic for all of the taiko community across the country, and trying to just come up with ways to keep people engaged. Taiko is a very together art form. It's not really a solo art form, so it's hard. It's hard for people to not be able to gather and play together. So that's been an ongoing challenge, but I think people have found some creative ways to deal with that. And like exploring what are the values and things connecting us through taiko that aren't just physically playing the drum, which is it's been hard to figure out, but there are some. And then otherwise, I started my own organization, the Japanese Arts Network, about a year ago from October. And we've been really fortunate to be able to get creative with a lot of different types of collaborations. During the beginning of the summer, we were working with an organization called the Japanese American Memorial Pilgrimages to do like a 9-week pilgrimage for basically to honor all the pilgrimages that people aren't able to take to incarceration sites from Japanese American incarceration sites during World War II. And so we were helping to do some Saturday programming, bringing on different types of Japanese and Japanese American artists. And then this October, we had planned on doing a live in-person event, but because we couldn't, we pivoted and started to brainstorm how can we do something that's going to provide more opportunities for artists as a creative outlet, also to find some income, and then something that's like social distance safe for people to engage with art, but then also use that as a learning platform, a tool for education, because simultaneously with the Arts Network being looking for an opportunity like that, I had worked with a couple of community leaders to create an organization called Stories of Solidarity in response to sort of the environment that we're living in, trying to find ways to connect cultural communities through stories of solidarity and recognizing both our own racial biases as well as opportunities to see throughout history and currently how we've worked together, for positive outcomes. And so all of those things kind of came to a crux, and a bunch of people, about 8 or 9 actually, producers from all different areas of arts and community building came together to come up with this immersive sort of immersive theater experience that we're called Zoto. And Zoto in Japanese means chilling.
I'm sorry, telling?
Chilling, chilling. So it's
cool.
like a supernatural Japanese folklore adventure, or Japanese folklore influenced adventure. So it takes people through an audio, video, and tactile engaging experience where they listen to audio tracks, they watch videos, and then they receive a package in the mail with these envelopes, and it guides you through this 8 chapters of story throughout Denver. So basically each of the stories takes place in a different actual location in Denver. and you learn about those locations and stories from history that might be associated with them. But but there's also this element of fiction, like this fictional story that's happening.
Man, that sounds.
It's kind of complicated to explain what it is, but
there's a lot of moving components to it. What was it last year when we were able to actually travel internationally and stuff, and not be stupid American so much. We went to Scotland and did so many of like the site tours and listened to the stories and everything. It's like, wow, wouldn't it be fun to like, fictionalize some of this and then incorporate like some of the actual history into that and stuff. And it sounds like you guys are able to do something like that. That's, but yeah, it's so much more comprehensive and, so much more engaging and endearing, I think.
Yeah, well, our hope is that people can engage with it locally, but also from afar. So the idea of it is if you're here locally, you can actually drive to the different locations, and you're encouraged to sort of do this whole loop of the story. But if you're from far away, or if you're connecting with it from far away, there's also a version that's entirely online, entirely digital. So yeah, I think it is it's a nice way to incorporate some learning about like areas that maybe if you're from Denver, that maybe you spend a lot of time in, but you might never have known that certain, sorry, my cat is meowing, certain things.
Your assistant,
she's very talkative.
Yeah, she's like, hey, wait a minute.
She's like making sure that I got the story right.
A bunch of phone calls for you, Courtney. Come on. You gotta get
yeah, but yeah, I mean, that was kind of the goal, is like for people who are from here or living here, maybe they've lived here their whole lives and they don't know some of these stories, right? But then if people are interested in Denver and they can't come visit right now, maybe they can learn something about our history and the people who have lived here over time. Through this sort of fun, kind of spooky adventure.
Yeah.
Which I did hear. Are you still there? Okay.
I'm still here. Yeah. You kind of froze up too.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. Damn.
I did hear from one person that it's a little bit scary because the music is a little scary at times, but it's still family friendly. I didn't know. No, the music is a combination of sound design from sound artist TM Sensor, and the playground ensemble from DU. They're like new classical music ensemble, and a couple of different pieces that they provided to us. So yeah, it has gongs and
cool.
It's really beautiful, but it is kind of spooky.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, spooky is good. I mean, I imagine, did a lot of this go out like during Halloween, during October?
The goal was for us to launch on Halloween, but we launched the following week just because we kind of bit off a lot more than we realized with this. So we weren't quite ready then, but yeah, the idea was for it to be kind of an autumn. Oh, here's the cat. Say hello.
Hello, kitty. Hi, Courtney's assistant.
Hello. Yeah, the goal was for it to be Halloween so that people could go do it during the spooky times. But I think it's still fitting because everything kind of gets stretched out during these pandemic times, right? Like, I don't know. What are days? What are
yeah, I don't know how many
time
we lived through, but yeah, apparently so. Yeah.
So far, anyway.
Yeah, right. Time kind of takes on a different meaning. The calendar kind of bleeds into each other. To me, it still feels like March, even though it's definitely fall outside.
Yeah.
that's kind of like my frame of reference where time kind of cut off and deadlines just kind of either withered away or really became even more cemented.
Right.
Because it gave you a goal, I think, to really force yourself to work towards, which was good, because I think we're so accustomed to routine, and without that now ish, it's it becomes, I think, a little tougher to find reasons. Hey, I don't need to get out of bed today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been a new sort of everyday.
Right.
I mean, I was already working from home, so
okay.
I do miss meeting up in coffee shops, and
I know. I
yeah, I know. I got
agree with that. Yeah, so much. The it sounds like you were able to adapt to the situation pretty effectively anyway, because you already had all a lot of things in place, and could pivot. And with this project, was it something that you guys developed in response to the pandemic, or did you already have that like a lot of the bones in place prior to that?
No, it really was in response to the pandemic. I think because originally we were going to do like I think one thing I forgot to mention is that the story incorporates Japanese like yokai and obake. So like, which for people who don't know, they're like supernatural beings and monsters and ghost spirits. And so like we had been thinking, oh, we'll do this really cool spooky event, like autumn event. Hopefully somewhere again like Sakura Square somewhere, and we'll incorporate like alternative Japanese culture, so like spooky things and like other interesting, there's like a lot of Japanese metal and like really cool Japanese tattoo culture. And so originally we were like, oh well, we'll do all this, yeah, exactly. But so then we were like, well, what can we do now? And then it just like became very well aligned with the Stories of Solidarity stuff, and trying to find sort of a platform for sharing stories through artistic lenses. And so just all those elements just kind of came together, and we were like, well, this seems like a good way to do it, because we can employ actors as voice actors. We can employ artists. So we engaged 3 different visual artists who either or 4 actually, who you either see their work in the like tangible packets that people receive, like within the envelopes. There's some artwork from like Julian Yates and
Julian's great.
Yeah, manga, some manga artwork, comic artwork, and then there's some another sort of like bonus feature that ties together the entire story is this sort of black cat that appears throughout the opportunity, and that was inspired by Casey Kawaguchi, who's a mural artist in Denver. We're actually still rolling out that sort of bonus feature, so stay tuned in the upcoming week. But we're basically placing this cat spirit that he's designed. He's like created these cats you're going to start seeing appear around the Rhino Arts District and downtown Denver. So we were able to employ, visual artist Akemi Tsutsui Kunitake is one of the producers on the work and helped us to develop the story. But she also, we did a crowdfunding campaign. Actually, it's still going. And a lot of the deliverables and sort of like the imagining what these spirits might look like on those deliverables was done by her, that artwork. And so, then we were able to employ like, musicians and sound designers and audio designers. One of our main audio designers does work with an organization called Western Sound Alliance, and they do podcast work,
Right.
and so yeah, it's nice to be able to work with so many different disciplines.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you got your own film production, because that's what that sounds like.
Yeah, and a filmmaker. Sorry, I forgot to mention. So Bruce Tetsuya, who's a really incredible filmmaker who just moved back to Denver from New York.
Oh, cool.
And he's been doing dance film recently. Actually, one of his dance films is in the Denver. It's either in the Denver Film Festival or the Cannes Short Film Festival, or both. But he did a dance film for us with some really incredible dancers from New World Contemporary Dance Theater, and they did a sequence that Christopher Page Sanders choreographed for himself and Bashir, who's his co-founder of the ensemble, and that's one of the videos that's part of the experience as well. So, we got dancers and choreographers and filmmakers and pretty much everything. I wish we could incorporate culinary somehow too, but
that'll be for the next package, the next next project. You'll ship out some culinary treats or something.
Yeah, well, you do get a treat actually if you're in Denver, and the very first task that you receive during the first chapter of the experience is to, if you're comfortable, go into Pacific Mercantile, and they'll actually give you a treat in exchange for something from your envelope. So,
oh, cool. That's pretty sweet. The man, I mean, the scope of this is absolutely amazing. The for everybody that's watching, if you go to the website that's streaming along there, je-ne.org/Zoto. You can see all the wonderful things that Courtney has put together, and hopefully are you planning another one pretty soon? Or was this daunting enough?
Yeah, I think, we are going to extend this one. I think so more people have the opportunity to do it. Like I had somebody recently reach out to me who lives in DC, who enjoys immersive, art and theater. And he said he was going to be in town during the holidays. Yeah. And he said, can I still experience this? And we said, yeah, absolutely. Let us know when you're going to be in town, and we can make sure that the components that need to be in place are still there. But I think we'll probably extend it through the beginning of the year, just because we're learning a lot about, it's very grassroots, the way that we're at the production line, basically, like the actual like packaging the deliverables and mailing them out and everything. But we've been able to keep up. So I think, I think we're going to extend it so that people have more of an opportunity to do it. But after that, I don't know. We haven't really talked about after that yet, because we're still kind of in the middle of it. So,
what's the response been like from the community?
I mean, so far people have said they've enjoyed it. They've learned, a lot that they didn't know about it. A lot of people have said that they didn't realize that there was a Japanese community here. So that's been interesting. I'm really curious to hear more from people who have done it. I think we'll probably send out like an optional survey if people want to give us some feedback, because I think everybody's kind of chosen to navigate it differently too, which we give you different different options for how to listen to the media and view the media and such. So I think people figure out what works best for them. But yeah, I mean, I think people have been excited about just having an opportunity to get out of the house in a safe way, to have something to do together. So that's nice to hear that people are enjoying it, like with their families, or like with their significant other or their friends, or
that's cool. We were kidding about this, off camera initially before we went to broadcast. But please next time try to incorporate choose your own adventure.
Yes. I know. I think that's definitely on the docket for whatever is next. Or somebody else please do it, because that is like I would love to participate in that. I participated in this Choose Your Own Adventure theater show once in New York when I was living there, and it was actually a Japanese director. I can't remember who it was, but they had these like signs that you could lift one or the other to say like which option you wanted to choose, and then they would pivot and change the storyline based on like, do you want her to go to the window or answer the phone? Like.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I think like our generations like love that stuff, right? Yeah. Like 80s, 90s kids.
Right. Yeah. No, that stuff was awesome. Yeah. As a kid, I was reading those type of books, and that was always a lot of fun. Nowadays you do have like even like feature films. I think there was a dark movie that Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, that's pretty interesting to have like a interactive streaming to that extent. But I think any way you can get things to interact, obviously, video games, is the most, if you're going to isolate, it certainly is, the one medium that is the most immersive and interactive.
Especially VR. Do you have an Oculus?
Right. Oh, geez. Yeah. A buddy of mine, Peter in Loveland, he's got a VR system, and he's been trying to figure out how to do an interactive online gallery setup where the artist is there creating and stuff, and people can come in and see different versions of, either, what the artist is seeing or seeing the artist, create, or just watching, without all the bells and whistles, just watching, that person, as silly and as weird with all the setup and stuff, just in regular space, everything around, and just,
that'd be so fun.
The artist.
I would love to help create or envision or produce a VR experience. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And to be able to like be in the artist studio or to see from their perspective. That was kind of what we were trying to do very subtly with this, was with the immersion. The first video that you see, it was actually recorded with binaural microphones. I said that correctly for once. I normally say binaural headphones. Binaural microphones. And so our main character, who's portrayed by Kevin Marchman, he's an actor who's one of the co-founders of the Black Actors Guild, and he's an incredible actor. We had so much fun working with him, but he wore the microphones in his ears. And then he wore a GoPro on his head. So the entire first film is actually from his perspective as he's like navigating Pacific Mercantile, trying to kind of figure out what's going on. So yeah, that's Shannon Geis, who's our one of our audio. She's our audio guru. She did. She was worked with that type of sort of 3D sound, binaural sound before. And so it was fun to do that. Yeah.
Man, that sounds so cool. It sounds like, you've surrounded yourself with amazing people to pull off.
Oh yeah.
Just wonderful outside of the box, productions. Like during the pandemic and everything, I think one of the tough parts, I mean, it's tough on kids, but, have you gotten like any response also from like the elderly? Have they been willing to participate in this?
That's a great question. I haven't actually done a lot of outreach just to see. I don't want to assume like people that I know who have purchased it that might. I don't want to offend anyone who might have who are seniors, like
Right.
according to the general, like they get senior discounts basically.
Yeah, that'd be me.
Nah.
My bones tell me otherwise.
Yeah, but don't tell lies, Daniel.
Who's lying? Dirk's younger than me.
I am younger than you. But not that much, and you're definitely not 65 or older. But anyway, I actually, that's a great question. I am hoping that they will tell me what their experience has been. I think some of them have like watched part of it and not done the whole thing yet. So
right.
It'll be nice to know, like, once they've done the whole thing, how easy it was to navigate. I definitely would love to hear their thoughts, especially because there some of the like Japanese American community members, some of these stories are their story,
Right.
So I'd love to hear what they think about the experience and about the story and the interaction. I tried to make it for anybody because I think like just thinking about myself and how like I overthink things. For anybody, any level of sort of user, right? We tried to make it so that there are enough options that it's navigatable for any type of user, but I'm sure there are many things we didn't think of still. So it's an experiment in how to do something like this, I guess.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think it's going to be. Hopefully, this project will be an ongoing conversation. You'll get a little bit of feedback, or you'll do some outreach and see what the response is. But yeah, I keep thinking it's like, seniors. They're kind of cooped up, and they're also the most vulnerable, age bracket right now. And then you got kids that are cooped up, and the parents always need something to do too, and so it's always interesting to see all these different perspectives, and then also like what you were indicating too, like different backgrounds. Like obviously, I wouldn't come at it with a Japanese perspective. I don't know. I'm not immersed. And so I would find it, absolutely. I would be very curious, and would love to entrench myself in that. But at the same time, I'm an idiot, so I need to have like baby controls, to navigate some of this stuff. But
sure.
Once you're immersed, I'd imagine it'll be really cool, and then it'll be neat to see what if there's a next version, what the next version is, or if there's another story,
Yeah.
And of course, for me personally, the hook is yokai. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm learning so much about yokai that I didn't know, even just in doing the research, because each chapter, really each chapter, the characters is encountering yokai, whether we explicitly say it or not. Right. But if you go to the website, there's a corresponding website that there's like a QR and a little URL for each envelope that tells you where you can go online. And we try to give a deeper dive into the historical context, so the stories, as well as the sort of Japanese elements you're encountering. So like the yokai, for example, the very first one that you encounter is wind god, the wind god Fujin. So yeah, I think that's kind of an interesting component. And also there's no prerequisite for like you don't have to have any sort of knowledge of Japanese culture whatsoever for this. In fact, like a lot of the stories we incorporate aren't necessarily Japanese stories, they're more Denver stories. So you know, we talk about like how Five Points used to be a hub for jazz, and and that we sort of in the deep dive talk about the redlining that, you know, caused a lot of these cultural communities to be in those neighborhoods, like be in the Five Points neighborhood. And then we talk about like the dance video that I mentioned. A lot of people don't know that there was like a KKK presence in Denver, like serious one, and that church actually had gotten burned down during that time by the KKK, or people think.
And that I wasn't aware of. But you've got what was it? Was it the mayor or the governor of Denver?
The governor, Ralph Carr.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you have Stapleton, which there's a whole airport that used to be named.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. The KKK. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a member of the KKK. And, you know, that's why you have the Stapleton area being renamed. I think it's now Central Park, which is good. It's like, you know, why are we honoring these dildos? You know?
Yeah, but I mean, I feel ignorant that I didn't know that, you know, until I did, until I found out the way a lot of other people have found out, you know.
Yeah, me too. I didn't find that out until the last few years. And there's right now there's a wonderful, you know, you can find it on YouTube, but PBS put out a wonderful little segment. It's probably about 20 minutes long on the history of the KKK in downtown Denver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's freaky.
I should actually link that. I should link that on the website.
I'll see if I can find it when we get off here in about 20 minutes, and then send you the link. But yeah, it's interesting to see, you know, all the the intersections of history and all the different cultures in a city like Denver. You know, the Black history, Japanese history. The unfortunate racism that springs up around that. And you know, when you talk about your grandparents and was it coming from Arizona? Was that?
Yeah. So my mom's parents, they were born in California. They were from farming families. They met in the camp actually in Poston, Arizona, and ended up coming to Denver. Actually, I have a photo of my grandparents on the coinciding webpage for that chapter of the immersive experience, because they were married in Denver during that time when they lived in that sort of 5 Points area after the war. But yeah, there was a lot of resettlement of Japanese and Japanese Americans in Denver, because when you said the governor, I thought you were talking about Governor Carr.
Right.
Yeah, because he was one of the only politicians to openly, say that this was not constitutional and speak out against the camps. There was still a camp here, Amachi, but yeah, because of his openness in stating that, a lot of people felt inclined to come to Denver after the war, and when they had nothing to return to. Right. A lot of people's farms were taken away from them, or their property. They could only take with them what they could carry, or so and then my dad's parents, it's really interesting because they were incarcerated in Crystal City, Texas, which is it wasn't actually the same type of incarceration. It wasn't the same type of camp, because they were brought up from Peru. So the American government made a sort of like transaction with the Peruvian government to bring some of the Japanese people I think my grandfather was targeted because he was a successful businessman, and basically allow the American government to kidnap him, bring him to the U.S. With the intent to trade him as with prisoners of war that were being held captive in Japan. Fortunately, that didn't happen to my grandpa, but yeah, he was taken. My grandmother had to find her way to him in Crystal City, and then they lived there until they were released, and then they ended up in Denver because they had a distant relative that they were like citizens of nowhere at that point because their passports had been taken away. So they were forced to be illegal immigrants, basically. So they needed sponsors. So they had a distant cousin living in Denver. So they ended up in Denver. But it's interesting because I think my grandfather spoke more Japanese and Spanish than he spoke English at that point. So it's interesting because he ended up in 5 Points and he ended up running a grocery store, but he was able to speak to, Spanish speaking employees in Spanish better than he could speak in English, I think. So it's kind of interesting.
This is not something that, we're taught in high school English, let alone even in college. I mean, it's brushed over, and you really have to get like these personal accountants, aside from what you've shared with me and some of the stuff that I find online, or the History Channel when they're not like running ancient alien crap and their weird love affair for Hitler bullshit. It's you get these little glimpses of what that is. And to me, it's, we need to learn this stuff so that we can stop fucking repeating this shit, because we've got, similar things happening in internment camps. Well, cages, I suppose, but really when you talk to people that have survived, the Japanese internment camps and survived the Holocaust, they're basically saying, what we've got at the southern border is pretty much the same thing, and there's no excuse for it. There's no reason for it. It's inhumane. And
there's actually a group called Suitor for Solidarity that was founded by former incarcerees. Actually, a lot of them were from the camp that my grandparents were in, and grandparents and uncles. Sorry, my uncle was like 2 when they ended up there as well. So, and they actually, my whole family went down to Crystal City some of us for the first time, a couple of years ago to go do a pilgrimage there. But then we also did a peaceful demonstration at at one of the facilities at the border. And we had taiko, actually, which I really appreciated. Satsuki, who's one of the founders of Suitor for Solidarity, had asked if we would have taikos because she had been inside of that facility with the women and children, and she had seen firsthand like how inhumane the conditions were, and she'd spoken with people, and she'd assessed that it was, because she's a I think clinical psychologist. So like she'd worked with trauma, people who were victims of trauma, especially, she'd worked with former incarcerees to work through that intergenerational trauma. And so she wanted us to play taiko so that hopefully they could hear that we were there, even though they might not have any way of knowing otherwise. But it was really beautiful to see so many different communities from that area come together to show support and to sort of raise awareness and make noise, to say like this is not okay. Their phrase is never again is now, like it's just, and they continue to do that work and work with other organizations to fight against it and to raise awareness and do what we can. So I really admire that organization. Everyone should check them out. Suited for Solidarity.
Is there a website, or should we put up, what is it again?
Yeah, let me find the exact website really quick.
Okay. And then Bill just chimed in. I'm learning so much about internment and Japanese experience. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it just wasn't really something that I wasn't really taught it in school. I think I remember my history book had like 1 or 2 paragraphs maybe that mentioned it. And I knew a little bit about it from what my grandmother had shared with me. She had this old photo album that I used to look through a lot. That was mostly just pictures of them posing in front of the barracks, you know. Okay. Like it wasn't, there weren't like a lot of photos of life during the camps. It was mostly that, and then people's portraits that they exchanged, like yearbook photos, you know. But, you know, I remember one of those photos said 442nd on it. So then I was like, what is 442nd? Which, you know, the 442nd was like the most highly decorated group of military during World War II. But they were all Japanese American infantry well, there's a whole, you should check out Go for Broke. like pitching all of these.
There's so many wonderful resources out there.
Yeah, there really are. I mean, we're fortunate that we have these organizations and resources now that can.
Did I get this right?
Yes. SuitorForSolidarity.org.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but you know, I was the same way for a long time, Bill.
Yeah.
You know, I'd get it in bits and pieces from. I mean, one thing that really stuck out for me, which is like what piqued more interest for me, was my grandmother told me a story about when they first went to the camps. And before they got there, they had to stop at a racetrack because the camp wasn't ready for them. And she was talking about how the family had to clean out their own horse stall to stay in.
Oh,
and that was pretty devastating for me to hear that. So I think at that point I was like, this is insane. Like that happened to you, that my family, my grandma who I love, like
right.
This is definitely something I need to inform myself more about.
Yeah, it's pretty it's pretty outrageous that anybody has to go through that stuff, you know. So when like generations prior to ours, you know, deal with that. I mean, and really, I should say, you know, like within your family, or you know, you hear about the atrocities that Americans have done to, you know, Black culture, and then to indigenous cultures and stuff. Yeah, it's really, it's daunting. It's daunting for those cultures, those groups of people. But yeah, we all need to do our diligence and learn this stuff as much as possible. And we can only do as much as we can. But yeah, it's a couple months ago I interviewed Christina Badhand and her husband Raphael, and they were talking about some of the massacres that some of their ancestors endured too. And it was just like, oh, you know, stuff I never knew, and it was very enlightening. Also, you know, I mean, yeah, it's very enlightening, eye-opening, and very kind of gobsmacking. And if there's any, you know, way you want to see this dirty old man, you know, cry, that's definitely the way to do it. But yeah, it's something that we really can't forget, especially, you know, during this time of turbulence, because we're seeing so many of our friends and family, brothers and sisters, you know, just having hard times, whether it's COVID or whether it's social unrest, you know, during protests and police involvements and you name it. To kind of interject, yeah, Bill also said the George Takei film and stage play Allegiance was very eye-opening to him too. And George Takei is somebody that I also find a lot of encouragement and insight from too. But
on multiple levels, on many levels, right?
Yeah.
No, that musical, if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth seeing. Even if you don't find yourself a musical theater fan, it's just such a powerful theater piece. And I actually was fortunate. I used to live in New York, so I got to see it right before I moved here. I got to see it on Broadway while it was still in previews.
Oh, cool.
And that was like, for me, that was like one of the like highlights of my life, because one of the performers in it is Lea Salonga, who was like my childhood idol, because she was one of the only Asian Americans on like singers on the Broadway stage, but she's also the voice of Disney princesses for all the, but in any case, I mean, Allegiance is on film, so you can actually watch it. I think on certain streaming services, and George talks about a lot of that draws from his own experience being incarcerated. I think he channels his grandfather definitely in that one a lot. It talks about sort of the political implications as well, and like how it wasn't so black and white, like with the Japanese American Citizens League, for example, and there, whether or not sort of that decision of like which side do you take, like what's the best interest of Japanese people, do you submit, do you say like, do you just do what they say, do you, and then he talks about the no boys, like the people who say, no, I'm not willing to say that I'm, I renounce, like, I'm not willing to answer your questions the way you want me to answer them on this survey that you're giving me, which you're only giving me these very options, black and white options. And it is interesting because he shows the different sides of it. And I agree, Bill. I think it was really excellent. And the music's really fun and the singers are incredible. So
nice. Yeah. That's so cool and awesome. Thanks. So back to like taiko drumming itself. What an incredible art form, and it sounds like it's been going through generations of your family. With the group that you represent with taiko drumming. How have you been able to cope with, performing or practicing with, people? Has it been like online or that sort of thing?
Well, so our group, Mirai Daiko, hadn't really been performing very much in the past year because half of the group has kiddos that are very time consuming. Although the kiddos are kind of learning how to play now from Aunt Nancy, Uncle Gary. So that's from One World Taiko, our teachers. So that's fun, but or they were before pandemic. It's actually interesting. Like I taught taiko for Cleo Parker Robinson's International Summer Dance Institute, but we did it all over Zoom. So we had to, it's kind of hard because they didn't have drums, so they had to air bocce is what we call it, like play in the air.
Interesting. So that's the thing.
Yeah, and then you say it out loud. And my uncle used to always say, if you can say it, you can play it. So it is beneficial to learn how to say it and then do the movements.
Nice.
But it's been interesting. I know we haven't really been playing, and I did do one video, like a collaborative video with some other artists, clarinet player Kevin Sakai, and hip hop artist, MC. Oh my, 3-2. Sorry, I for some reason I can only think of MC Squared, which I was like, that is not his. That is not Chris's name.
Well, yeah. If
MC 3-2.
Yeah,
Christopher Bennett, and then Margaret Ozaki Graves singing and then doing folk dance. And so we were able to collaborate to do a collaborative video where none of us were like really in the same space. But as far as playing together, it's really hard. I know just from working for TCA and from hearing from other taiko practitioners and community leaders, some people are doing like, they'll have one person playing a bass beat and then everybody else is muted and then playing along. So that way you're all playing in the same time.
Yeah.
But it is hard with the like technology and the lag. They're developing some programs that are still kind of in beta for people to play in real time together. So I can't remember what it's called, but one of our advisory council members for TCA told me about it the other day because he also does choral, like college, university choral, directing. And he said that they were able to do a choral piece together and it worked for like 4 minutes beautiful and then it stopped working. But for those 4 minutes, it was really exciting because
it's a piece of heaven.
Yeah. So that's hopeful. I mean, maybe we can try to do that for a taiko something upcoming and see how it works.
Yeah, that it kind of, your collaboration kind of brought some images to my mind. My friend Kelly Shortenqueer of Dink and the Denver Zine Library. He also has an event. It's like a Denver square dancing convention.
Oh, cool!
And it's like, oh man, you got to figure out how to incorporate taiko drums now somehow.
That would be amazing. Oh my gosh, taiko square dance.
Taiko square dance.
I love taiko with dance. I think it's like, it makes so much sense, like organically speaking, because taiko is such a movement-based art form to begin with.
Right.
So yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm like taking it a step further, I think, and thinking about like square dancing with taiko, like while playing taiko. But taiko as a rhythm, taiko for square dance would also be cool.
Yeah, it's I remember coming and seeing you and your cousins perform as Mary Daiko, back in the day, and that was always awe-inspiring because it just reminded like every boom of the of the drum just reminds me of a heartbeat, and it's intense and it's it reverberates and it's so wonderful. So seeing it when we were able to bring it into, OFM with this metal band and all the guitars and the bass and Matt on regular drums and I think even Dave was on the
he was playing the steel. Yeah. That was fun. I think he plays taiko now.
He might. I think he was inspired by you guys, and just kind of. I don't know if he took formal lessons, but I think he just kind of picked it up by ear.
Yeah.
And then.
That was fun. That was so fun to play with those guys for sure. I'd love to do that again. I actually have been telling myself for years I want to write a taiko metal song. Like my own.
You totally should. I think you should.
I mean, I'm a metal fan, so.
Are you?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I think these days I tend to lean a little bit more, punk. Just that
taiko punk would be cool too. Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, let's write a song together.
Okay.
I think that would be so much fun. But man. Now I'm just thinking like, it's like the speed of a taiko drum, with the speed of guitars going and then the crash of cymbals and stuff. That'd be a lot of fun. But yeah. Oh man. Okay, now you got my creative juices going. Go get your taikos. I'll meet you back in 10. We'll set up.
Taiko punk.
Yeah. Yeah. Courtney, it was such a great time, chatting with you and having you come on. We're going to have you on again because I don't even think we scratched the surface. You've got so many things going on and, have so much insight, and you're connected with such a wonderful, creative community too. That like I said, I don't think we scratched the surface. I think there's so much more that needs to be shared with the community at large, everybody that's watching and hopefully everybody that watches after this.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the opportunity to just come and catch up and to share some of what I've been working on, and to sort of give voice to some of these other things. Really grateful to be able to talk about, Japanese American history. That was nice to be able to mention that. So thank you. And yeah, I want to hear more about what's going on with your art too. I know I just talked about myself this whole time.
Well, that's the whole point of this show. I want to listen from you. I already know what I'm doing. Kinda. Bill knows what I'm doing sometimes. Huh, Bill? He's giving you applause. That's free.
I've been enjoying though following all of your projects over the past year too. So
thanks. Yeah, much like you, I've had to pivot. This is one of those wonderful outlets. It's a great tool for me to to stay connected with friends like you, and then meet new people too, and learn about what they do, and hopefully share it with a larger audience that might find it interesting and engaging, and if anything, also a little endearing, because it's the human experience, and right now, boy, are we fucking human.
Yeah. That is a true statement.
Oh, thanks so much. Courtney, thanks again for coming on to the show. And, bless you. And, hang out for a few minutes. But to everybody that was able to tune in, you all have a great night, a good Monday. Be good, be kind to each other, help each other out. And we love you.